Hello YouTube, Prof Sales coming at you with another episode of Revenue Wrap. So welcome to the show. I am your host, Prof Sales, and tonight we have a very special guest. We have Tracy Smith, Entrepreneur Girl herself.
You need a website.
Oop, let me mute that. You need a website, apparently. Wix.com thinks we need a website. So tonight, Tracy Smith, Entrepreneur Girl, is on with us. And you saw in the title that I put entrepreneur, reseller, wife, and mother of 8. And I just kind of ran out of room for things that who she is and what she does. But there's a lot more titles and a lot more to her than just those. So I'm going to let her tell her story a little bit tonight about who she is. And if you guys have questions, please leave us those questions in the chat box. Just type a few question marks in, and we will have a great time. So Tracy, how you doing tonight?
Thanks, Jason, for having me. I know that we've been talking since, I think it's been February, so I'm going to catch up on your YouTube channel, which is really growing, and I love your videos. So it's good to be here. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And a little bit about myself. A lot of you know, but I don't want to exclude anybody, is I am the mother of 8 children, and I'm married, and I live in Florida. And I was staying home with my children and homeschooling them in school for business at the University of Florida. And I wanted to stay home. I didn't want to go into the corporate world and leave. I had an option that I could do from my computer, from my house. And in addition to that, I'd gone through a real some health issues. I think Jason and I are going to talk about that in a little bit. And I really did a lot of soul searching in what I wanted my life to look like. And I came up kind of accidentally with eBay. Prior to that, I had been stock trading. So that's kind of where I started, was stock trading, and I loved it, but it wasn't enough money. So I stumbled into eBay as an income stream, and that really worked well. So I did that for a few years, and then I added Amazon. Within months, I added Amazon FBA, and then I've grown it into Entrepreneur Girl business, and it's just ever made. So I want to encourage all of you tonight, if you're not doing it, to give it a go.
That's great. So there's a lot that she covered there, and we were talking, you know, in the pre-show beforehand, just about all the different aspects of being in business a little bit. And so that was a little bit about your story about how you got started. And I have a few questions tonight, but, you know, I wanted this to be more conversational than, you know, like an interview per se, because just as an FYI, I was telling Tracy, she was one of the first people I found on YouTube when I started reselling as well. And she has a lot of great videos about, you know, tips to do things and so on. Like, this is how these are scanners. She has scanner reviews. She has, this is how you list things on Amazon FBA and how you send them in, how to set up her office, her inventory system, which, by the way, Tracy, my inventory system, it was inspired by your inventory system, believe it or not. So thank you for that. But there's a couple things that really stuck out to me about your story. And the first one is probably your, you know, some of the adversity you went through. And I know you talk about this on your website at EntrepreneurGirl.net, but could you share some of that story with the viewers here, and kind of like how you know, some of the things that you've had to overcome over the last, you know, 5 or 10 years, you know, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. I think some people would find some inspiration in it.
Right. I've realized recently that I don't share it enough. I do share it on these live, you know, talks. I realize that so many people, they see where you are now, and they don't realize where you came from. And I think that it will encourage, you know, others to not give up and to really persevere and push through, you know, hard times. And what Jason's referring to with all of that is there was a 5-year period where embolism. And I was pregnant at the time with my last child. So I had 7 children, little ones at home. And I had massive pulmonary embolism that has killed off the left side of my lung. And I shouldn't have survived. But it was really scary, though. Not only was that episode scary, but the whole next year was a very difficult recovery. And then just when I thought I was recovering from that, I found out I had thyroid cancer.
Wow.
Not one that is going to kill me. Luckily, that at the time I just heard cancer. I didn't really, know anything about that. I had to learn, and I had to mentally overcome that. And then if you read on my website's EntrepreneurGirl.com, it's like a joke. I really felt like my life could have been a reality TV show, because if I wasn't crying, I would have, because it was literally like I would just recover from one major life event and something else would hit a huge target on my head or a big black cloud over my head. And I was difficult. It's difficult to push through, and every time you finally stand up and you're pushed through, and some things were so crazy, like flash flood in Kokomo, Indiana, and I had decided I was going to go there and recover from my dad love on me, and I bought this farmhouse with money that I had from the stock trading. I took all of got this farmhouse and fixed up the whole basement area. A historic flash flood, never in the history. And there's 12 feet of water in the farmhouse. And it was those kinds of crazy things that I defeated. I guess defeated would be a great word. I felt defeated. I felt like every time I tried, something would knock me back down. And I see so many people now that are in a rut, that are in a position in their own life that I felt, they feel defeated. They feel like I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I don't have enough education. My parents, there's drug abuse and alcoholism. And I hear all of these stories and I so relate, maybe not identical to you, and say, it's worth it. And I think what happens is you get mad enough, just mad life, that you're just fearless. You're just going to push through no matter what, because what do you things are so rough for you that you have nothing to lose. And so putting yourself out there and putting my YouTube channel, I didn't know anything about YouTube, out there on a public forum where people could say anything they wanted, and it could be but you just really have a sense of kind of not caring, because you're just pushing through. You're just determined to make it better. And I think there's a lot of honesty and truth in stories, if we are, that we can motivate and encourage each other.
Yes, agreed. And I would just say that, those are great points, Tracy. I mean, it's so often we're able to, just get in this rut almost of where you, I guess the word is, you throw a pity party for yourself, and you think, wow, this is just not working for me, or it's not working like I thought it was going to. And obviously, with all those personal struggles and so on, you found a way to kind of overcome those. So did you have any specific, ways that you stay positive, or say, hey, I've had these trials. I mean, I've had this adversity. And I know they say adversity, makes you stronger, but it can also, crush your spirit sometimes if you're not careful, and if you let it. So do you have any tips, for how people can, if it's not going as well as they should, whether it's in their business life or personal life or whatever, because those are connected, obviously, what sort of insight do you have into how do you stay positive? How do you find a way to approach each day with optimism and each task? And and so on?
Well, there's a few things I could tell you. He is here in the group. Mickey has been a friend of mine through this whole private label adventure, and I keep hitting obstacles. We all do, because life is messy, and so it's not like just something that happened in that 5-year period. I mean, those were obviously huge, but I hit it every day. You know, every day I'm fearful, or I'm in a learning curve, or I'm frustrated, or I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, of my comfort zone. And I think the way positive is because my motivation with me. And I don't know if you've seen on the YouTube channel, every New Year's, I talk about setting goals. Actually, I have it, hold on. I have it up because I was just revisiting it. This is the paper I actually see you. So I was in ICU with my my embolism, and I made this, and this is based on my life and what was important. And then I took all of that and I defined goals with it, and I broke it down into area and what I wanted to do that year for the goals. And I have my why very set. It was so awful the way things were that I would fantasize almost about the life for myself. I knew where I wanted to live, how I wanted it to look like, who I was going to be with, and it was firm in my head that I have no problem pushing through now, because failing's not an option as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to have lots of little failures. I'm going to not succeed everything I do, but overall, I'm going to be moving forward, and I'm just absolutely certain that I'm going to obtain what's in my head, because there's a way to push through that. And when you big things like that, I just feel like that's what you learn to teach others that maybe haven't had something so drastic happen, to really take these things, you know, reflecting on your life and figuring out your why, because things are going to get tough and you're going to be fearful, fail. And if that's okay with you, if you can get to a place where you say, yeah, I really screwed that up, it's all right, you know, it's not going to be the last thing that I screw up, then the pressure's kind of off. I think it's because failing, you're afraid of the what ifs, that it holds you back from trying. And if you just say up, it's going to get messy, but it's going to look like the stock market. It's not just a straight line up. It's going to be up and down and up and down, trending upward. You're going to be a lot further next year than you are this year. And that's how I did it. And that's how, not all at once. You know, I started with eBay, and then I added Amazon, and then Amazon FBA and YouTube, and my coach, and you know, it just keeps growing and growing. My newest thing now is private label, and so I'm always to that goal that I have in my head. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, and that's great. If you can, we're still a little choppy. I think it's coming through, so maybe we can adjust that setting a little bit on that end. Tracy has kind of a spotty internet sometimes where she's at, unfortunately, but we're all limited by technology. So we have like.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's just it'll pause a little bit, and try it one more time.
Yes, I'm sorry, everybody. I live on an island, and this is always an issue with me because awful internet out here. Yeah,
I mean, so it's a little bit glitchy, but you're coming through. It's just sometimes it'll pause for a fraction, or we'll drop a word every once in a while. So, but yeah, so we have 20. I think we have like 20 to 25 people watching. So that's awesome. Thank you guys for that. And we appreciate you guys coming in. Somebody just sold something. Oh, I think that was me. Sorry, I forgot to turn that off.
I love that sound.
Oh, no, actually, it's just a message. That's not exciting. Somebody probably wants a measurement for a pair of jeans, would be my guess. Yeah, so I know, too, that, like, you obviously have a big family. I think by anybody's measurement, eight children. Is that right? 8?
That's right. I have 8 children all my own, not a blended family. So I have 4 girls and 4 boys. But I grew up in a big family, so I've been used to it since birth.
What are the ranges? How old are they?
My age then. 25.
I'm sorry. We kind of missed that part a little bit, I think.
Oh, good. You missed the age part. No. 4 to 5. Are you hearing me better, or is it worse?
Yeah, it's still real glitchy. I think it's just I don't know why exactly. It's just having a little trouble picking up the feed. It's not far off. It's just a little bit off. So with 8 kids, I mean, I don't have children of my own. We have my Karen's son is 16 who lives here. So I guess my question would be, you know, and you and I were talking about this pre-show a little bit, that I have, you know, somebody brought this up in my chat the other day, or when we were having a show, and they said, you know, their children were preventing them from maybe reaching their goals, you know, going as far as they could. And I don't know how many children they had. And, you know, as someone who doesn't really have children, that's a tough question for me to answer, or for me to think about, even though I'm in a situation where I'm obviously involved in Ben's life. But with 8, I would think, just even from a time standpoint, you know, that had to be an enormous amount of time, you know, that you spend with your children, and you have to. But how do you still find the time to be a mother to 8 children, you know, various ages, and also, and obviously a wife as well, and also run, you know, this business? I mean, that almost seems impossible on the surface. So is there some sort of secret formula, a potion we can take, or a superpower you have that you haven't shared with the world? What is it?
I wish. No, because I don't have a perfect formula or perfect science. So many people are like, oh, you homeschool and you have these businesses and do all of those things. And I've had to become, luckily I didn't have them all 8 at the same time. So I've had time to evolve, to you know, create schedules, implement a lot of things in my own household, so that really well. And so the first tip I could give anybody that might have a lot of responsibilities or a lot of children would be, I started a power list. And this is my notebook here, but every day, the things that absolutely have day, I put right here. And then as my day's going on, I have it all scheduled. So everything that I had on my goal sheet, I put on a schedule. And then my schedule is exactly is organized, from my meal planning to laundry to everything. So I know where I'm going, because I have what steps I need to take. And now all I have to do is go through the motions of the schedule and get there, because our life is minutes that are into hours, that are into weeks, and you are what you're doing every day. And so I have time with my kids, blocking, time blocks. So I have work time blocks, I have homeschooling time blocks, I have even fun. I know that's
fun,
but I even have
time
fun.
for fun with that many kids.
You know, we like to swim, we like to bike ride, and it's just a remind, not, because sometimes I admit I feel really frustrated, because I have so many ideas for my businesses that it's my biggest enemy. I just don't have the time to implement everything I want to. But the whole point, the whole reason I started this business was ability, you know, so that I could be with my kids, so that I could travel and, you know, go and see extended family. I don't want to work myself into where I can't do that anymore. And so I have to keep that in my head at all times, and really just stay organized, those time blocks of time. I always start with my kids first, and that way they're not mommy, 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 and me. Have an activity for them that they don't get to do the rest of the day. Like their computer time is when I'm working, because I don't hear a peep, and because they're doing something that they want to do, and I can do something that I want to do. So all of that is say organized. I know there's something else I'm missing that you asked me. I can't remember.
No, I think that was most.
Excuses, like having kids. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, the excuses. Yes.
Excuses. We that. I've been guilty of it lots in the past. Or another thing I've been guilty of is I would do box, and I'd be like, yes, I did one Amazon box. I'm done for the day. When you start to realize that you could do a lot more than you could as you start to pile things on your day. And I don't want to say pile on like it's a negative thing, because I absolutely love what I do. I tell Mickey and Terry, they're in the chats all the time, I love what I do. I can't wait to get in here and work. So, when I'm in here, I just work really hard, because you're working for yourself. You're not working for someone else. And I could blink in 12 hours because I'm just so passionate and happy about it. And having excuses, like I said before, with the difficulties, hurting yourself, you're not going to grow. You're not going to you're living your future, I guess. And instead of planning for your success, you're kind of banking on that you're going, oh, I can't do that because I have too many kids. I don't have enough time. If you wanted to make time, everybody in their day. We choose not to. So I think we need to stick with saying, I choose not to do this by getting up at 5 a.m. I'm choosing to sleep, or I'm choosing to watch The Voice, which I love, by the way. So,
that's great. No, that's terrific. I mean, what you said something there that I really wanted to touch on a little more in depth, is that you choose, because I was thinking about this the other day. I mean, we choose what we're passionate about, or we choose what we put our time into by what we're passionate about and what we find important. And you may say, well, there's certain things I have to do that are important that I don't really choose. And that may be true, but somewhere along the line, you made a choice still to do it. I mean, we always have choice. So how do you, how do you tell someone, maybe you have someone who's coming to you for advice, maybe they're coming for some coaching, maybe they need some help with their business, what have you. How do you tell that person, and maybe they have all the tools, like they have all the tools, the office tools, they have apps, they have scanners, they have all those things. But what they're lacking is not even motivation is the right word. They're just lacking that perseverance to stick through something. They want that instant, they want those instant results. They want that instant gratification. What do you say to that person? What would you say to them to get them moving in the right direction with their business?
Well, I think most of us know that that has been linked to being a successful entrepreneur or a successful small business owner is passion for what you do with spades, because it does give us the flexibility. It does allow us to create a lifestyle versus someone else and building someone else's dreams. So most of the time, passion is not the problem. But then you have to have a path. You have to have a clear path in front of you, which is what I talked about figuring out what is really important to you. And my version of success might not be this, for me, being successful is spending time with my kids, and doing a business. So if I have to do my business less hours and not advance as fast as maybe somebody else's, I can't look at them and hold myself to their standard and feel like a failure. My path is different. And so it's really, I think, extremely important that you have your path, you know where you're going and you know how you're getting there, and you have your schedule set in such a way that you just do it. And then the third P is positive, which you talked about earlier, just having a positive attitude. And that's kind of easy when you love what, and if you're starting to get into this, you know, maybe you haven't arrived at a, like you were saying, a beginner might be, so they don't know that it works yet, you know, and they're not making any money, and they're still doing their first box, and all they see is everything is crazy. But once you have a little bit of time invested, you start to become positive about it because it does work and it's exciting, and it's very, very exhilarating to be able to work for yourself and to be able to be building dreams. And the fourth thing would be people, which I've talked about in some of my YouTube videos. Some of the people that I love are in this hangout, and with people that are not negative, that will encourage you instead of kind of tearing you down. People that are more advanced than you, because we're all on a different place in this journey. There's some that have mentored me in the past. When I first started, I watched the Gilmans a lot. There were a few channels that I watched to learn, and I would message them and ask them questions, and you know, they helped me because they were further ahead than I.
Right.
I try to help others. I try to, you know, pay that forward and be that mentor for other people. So I think thing is perseverance, which you're talking about now. And let's face it, it's going to be harder than you think. It's going to take long obstacles. You're going to be mad at yourself. I mean, these things are just part of it. And if you can't just be like, all right, and move past it, you're really not going to get through to the other side. And you just need to, I think, and you give yourself an okay. All my family knows when I started this, I said, hey, I have no idea if this is going to work or not. $200, and that's what I started with, $200 at garage sales. And I said, you know, if I lose it, it's $200. And so, but I flat out told them, this could be the worst thing I ever tried. I don't know, but I'm not going to sit on the sidelines. I'd rather fail miserably than never try, you know, because at least I know that at least I know it didn't work, or at least I know that I tried. The 6P is just being productive. And that's where I am right now. With my time, is I've grown to a level now that I'm having to work on this stuff again. Like, that's why I have it right here front and center, is because I'm evaluate, you know, my goals and where I'm heading, and make sure I'm on the right path, because my time filled up with the business has grown to a certain level. So now I have to worry about, am I doing my value? And all busy ourselves with, you know, putting stickers on stuff and watching a movie, which I love to do, by the way, but I'll kind of be hard on myself and say, hey, you know, am I doing the items that add value? What would make the most value for me to get to my goals? Is it going to be labeling this whole box of books, or could I have my teenager do that for a private label product? And so there's value. Yeah, that's right. But the value, making sure you're hitting those value items first, making sure that I'm not just being busy, that I'm actually being productive time, because there's a difference. And we all say that we have distractions and we think that they're good, but they're really, when you look at it from the point of, is what I'm doing right now furthering me? Right. Is it making an impact? And it literally is, sometimes you have to take one step back in order to have 3 steps in the future. That's what I'm doing right now. There's some things I'm having to step back at and take a little hit. Like right now, my sales are down. and Amazon, and a lot of people don't advertise that. I'm telling you that my sales are down because I'm being distracted. So that's one step back, like, oh no, I'm not making as much money, but it's because I've evaluated it and I believe the best path for me and my business is with private label, and I'm believing in that I will be 3 steps forward there, and so I'm okay with taking that step back, and that's all in that productivity with our 6 P's entrepreneur.
That's awesome. I mean, that's great. I mean, you just like broke it down so succinctly there, but there's so much in each of those, so that's good stuff. We have a couple questions here from Krillin, who asked, it's a 2-part question, although they're unrelated questions. What does Tracy sell on eBay/Amazon? And also in reference to stock trading, does she prefer technical analysis over fundamental analysis? And I think you talk about, if I'm not mistaken, I think you talk about stock trading in some of your videos. It's a little over my head, but you do talk about it, I believe, in some of your videos. Is that correct?
It is. On the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel is mainly about Amazon because that is my biggest source of income. But I do try, because I do believe in diversity and I like different income streams. And I talk about that, and the reason I like that. But if something were to happen with Amazon or eBay or any one of my income streams, I like that and I don't have to, you know, sweat it out so much. With stock trading, I started a stock trading, and I actually have another video that's coming out, and I talk about what type of analysis I like, and it's actually kind of I know there's different parts to that, you know, people are this side or that side, but I both. And I talk about why I do that in the video. And then with eBay and Amazon, I started off, eBay was basically, my store was online garage sale, which I'm not proud of, but I got better. And then I broke it down into three stores, and I had a store that was just educational, because that's how I started with eBay, was homeschool curriculum.
Homeschool.
Went into, because I'm a homeschooling mom, and basically I was just selling off my curriculum, and I made a lot of money, and I was really surprised. So I thought, I wonder if I can duplicate that, or if it was just a fluke, and I was able. And then that's when I started searching for curriculum. So I ended up having 3 stores I grew on eBay. And then with my very first love on Amazon was books. And I still do a lot of books because I just, my thing is books. Some people love clothes. I know you like clothes. So, you know, but I started with books on Amazon, though. I'm into private label mainly now. And so I have my own brand and my own line of products. A little different than what I was doing before.
Right, right. That answer your question, Krillin? I would think so.
Yeah, thanks. That was a good question.
He said it clunked out, fundamental or technical?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Both. And I say why in the video, but I like to look at both of them before making a decision. And I know there's normally the other, but that's just not the way I learned in business school. We utilized both. And so.
Okay, great. So you were talking about something a moment ago that I wanted to go back to that we didn't really get a chance to explore more. And you said it in passing, but it's something that I've been talking, well, maybe not talking about, but just having to think about. And this is, I hesitate to bring this up because in the reseller community, we kind of keep score, it seems like. And what I mean by that is people tend to keep score based on your sales. based on how many units you moved, how many dollars you made, and how little, you know. And when you go in the reseller groups, whether it's, you know, like the Green Room or the Reseller Society or the Amazon groups, I think you have a group on Facebook as well. A lot of times you see people who post things, oh, look, in this month I did, you know, I sold $1,000 worth of this, or $2,000 worth of that, or $3,000. And the problem is, and this is where I'm kind of curious your take on it, the problem is that it becomes a comparison game. And you mentioned that when you were talking about the P's a moment ago. You mentioned the comparison game. And you know, you see a seller who comes on and they sell more than you, whatever their model, doesn't even matter. And the community, not just that person, sometimes that person, you know, doesn't think this way, but the community seems to give that person more credence in terms of they're winning this game more than you are. If that's, I don't know if that's the right way to put it. They're beating you. How do we get out of that mindset of always playing the comparison game with other people? What's your take on that?
Well, I think there's pros and cons to those posts. I get what you're saying. I think sometimes they're good because they encourage people. There's people something to look at where they say, okay, it's real. You know, that's a real snapshot from a real Amazon account, and they may. And I think especially for beginners, that's really important because they can look at that and say, okay, it's not just below. You know, I'm on here talking, but they don't know me, not really. I try to be as transparent as I can and you know, share my life, but
right.
Maybe she's just making a YouTube channel. I don't know what they think, but I can see where it's like proof in the pudding type of thing. I personally think like that. I've had people ask me for my eBay account names and my Amazon account names, and for me to share screenshots. I need to do that. I don't really feel a need to prove myself. I didn't start the channel for that. You know, I started really to help another mom that
right.
maybe wanted to stay home and not be upset by going to work. And that I kind of stumbled into, and it was working. And so I just wanted to share what I had found and say, hey, you know, here's another viable. And that's why when I started, you saw me, you know, with the inventory, and it was just stuff that I was doing. You know, this was stuff that I was learning, and I was sharing so that they could learn and maybe, you know, follow this with me. So I've never felt like that. That I know where I'm going. I know what I want to do, and I know I move at a turtle's pace compared to the other sellers out there. And sometimes I beat myself up about that. I know people in private that, you know, they just got products, they got it listed, they got tons of money, and, you know, there was this really great success story, and it was taking me to get to that point. But I had to remember that my goal is not to just making millions of dollars. You know, my goal is to have a successful life. And what that means to Tracy anyway is I want to spend my childhood with my kids' childhood with them. I want to homeschool, and I also want to success, but it's just part of it. It's not all of it. And so I try to keep that in perspective with myself and gauge all of that. And this year I lost my dad, and you know, that was a really good wake-up call to say, all right, I was a good daughter to my dad, and he was a good dad to me, and we had a great relationship. And it's because of this that I was able to be up there with him a lot, but it's also because I was just mindful of it. I didn't get into that like you're talking about.
Right.
And swept into what everybody else was doing.
Well, and it's interesting because I was looking at the chat box, and Turtle Trader said, are they comparing apples to apples or oranges? And I think what Turtle means by that is, you know, there's obviously a difference between someone who's just started versus someone who's been doing this for 5 years or 10 years. There's a difference between someone who started with $200, as you did, versus somebody who started with $20,000, you know, to start their budget. Or
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
The starting point.
And I started.
Sorry, go ahead.
The starting point in the method, you know, I think how much inventory you have to invest in it, and then also the types of merchandise. And I had to learn, everything I did, I learned the hard way. So I had to about profit margin and choosing higher priced items versus, you know, the little $10 items that I started off. I had to learn a lot of lessons the hard way that I try to post on the YouTube channel to say, okay, don't do that. You know, it's kind of,
don't do this. That's just as important as what to do, right?
So save yourself a lot of time and problems.
We should, you know, there should be more videos like that in the community, don't you think? 10 things not to sell on eBay.
Yeah, like glass. You know what I was thinking with that? I had to learn that one a few times. Like, I just don't mess with glass anymore.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said. You said glass, though, like just not knowing what to do with it, how to ship it.
Yes, dealing with any kind of glass anymore, I've learned that that's not for me unless killer profit margin attached to it. I just don't try because of the and the insurance with the shipping and everything.
Right.
So these are things you learn as you go, and I just think some people maybe had a different path in their life and hitting their goals, and if you compare yourself to them, it's not going to be the same because we all have different life experiences in places.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, the comparison game, that's a tricky one, and you know, I know a lot of people do it in this this community, but man, I wish we could you know, stay away from that because it tends to lead you down the wrong path. So I had another note here, and I kind of lost. Oh, there it is. So now, you know, you've gone in, you've started with eBay, you've gotten into Amazon and so on. And I think you were talking a little bit maybe about your current, you know, approach. Where do you see yourself going with your business? You know, I mean, obviously the changes that are taking place on Amazon. I just saw a story right before we came on that said that that Amazon was going to be restricting new FBA sellers through the end of the year, through the end of Q4. Now, I don't know that's 100% yet, but it sounds like it probably is. And we've seen some restrictions of brands and so on. eBay so far hasn't seemed to go in that direction, but you know, who knows, they could. So given all those facts, you know, given what's going on with Amazon, given what's going on with, you know, just the e-commerce platforms and, you know, some of the things that have come down the pike over the last, you know, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, what's kind of your focus for the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 years? I mean, where do you see yourself going with this? Do you see yourself always being in business for yourself, being an entrepreneur from now on? Do you see yourself diversifying out into other areas? What's it look like for Entrepreneur Girl?
Oh, that's a huge. I will always work for myself. I just can't imagine having to get a regular job. I think
right.
Just about anything it took to not let that happen. I love working for myself. Now, where are my plans? I know there's been a lot of changes with Amazon. A lot of people are in an uproar about it. I think they're a lot of their stuff because there's such rapid growth with Amazon right now that they're having to reconfigure it. And it makes sense for them. I would be doing the same thing. But it does bode for the point that I made about diversification. Because even though we work for ourselves, we're still working for Amazon. You know, in a way, they are our platform. And so is eBay, you know, the stock market. So all of these things, we have some element of that we don't have control over. Reasons that I feel that your income streams should be you know, diverse in that if one is having some kind of problems on with all their changes and you're a little bit unsure, I'm not sweating bullets over here because I don't have all my eggs in that Amazon basket. Okay. I think it's all going to settle out. They're going to make their changes. We're all going to adjust, and it's probably going to be better for everyone.
Right.
I don't have to like really worry about it because I have other things going on. The same way you wouldn't have a stock portfolio, one stock. You would want to have tech stocks, and you would, you know, you would want to diversify a little bit. So that's how I approach that. Now, girl, and what I started off doing, I thought I was just going to almost and grow my eBay and Amazon. That was my sole focus. Now that as I've evolved, as my number one love is to impact people, and I realized that about myself. That's really where I would like to be. So if I could, you know, create courses or coach more, I'd really like, because I just enjoy it so much more than listing product. But I will always list product because I just not sell, and source and private label has been really fun. And so I see myself always doing that, but definitely growing. Right now, my 3 areas of focus is growing the YouTube channel. I'm going to open another YouTube channel that talks about, I can't talk about on Entrepreneur Girl, more like being a mom, you know, more like having a big family, more of like all the stuff that not everybody on that channel wants to hear. You know, they want to hear about Amazon and eBay, and I understand that, but I know that there's a whole group to hear the other stuff and need to hear it. And so I'm going to branch out my YouTube, and my second goal is to, my Entrepreneur Girl website is just basically fundamental right now. We haven't even scratched the plans for that. So he's working full-time on my website, and that's really, really going to explode. And then the third thing is my, I really want to branch out in that. And so all of 2017, those are my 3 focus areas.
We might have missed the third one there. It might have cut out just for a second. Could you repeat it?
Sure. The third one was private label.
Okay.
And to that, and so that's Amazon, you know, largely, but it also are the products that I could sell on my, or through, you know, other e-commerce sites.
Right, right.
And that's what I plan on hitting. Those 3 are my top 3 for 2000.
Right. And so, and that's great. I mean, you've kind of got a 3-pronged approach there that goes out into different areas and keeps you diversified, which you spoke about, which makes a lot of sense. Just kind of, so that way you don't have to worry if, you know, that's probably a good takeaway for everybody. It's like diversify your income streams, you know, and that way if one goes down, it doesn't kill you. And I think you've talked about that in some videos before, I believe. It seemed like I watched a video where you talked about that.
I'm big in. Some people have really disagreed with me on that, and that's okay. I understand, but I really believe that's how I approach my business.
Right.
And then I think too, if we're all just, you know, once you have your business model set in play, and I try to just be better this month than I was last month, and that doesn't have to be just money. You know, it could be learning. It could be, you know, maybe I've gotten better at sales tax, or maybe I got my accounting in a better, or maybe my inventory organized more effectively, or I'm big into reading. I think everybody knows that. And so I try every week if I can, but at least every couple of weeks. Wait, what are your favorite books? I'm going to share my 3. All right, this is an old one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Have you read that one?
I have not.
No,
I've not read that one. I've read part of it, I think.
I love it.
It's a great book, I've heard.
Really good. It changes your whole mindset on finance.
Okay, great.
This one, Michael Hyatt platform.
All right.
And the 4-Hour Work Week.
That's Tim Ferriss's book, right? I did, but you know, I read it like 10 years ago. Well, I don't know if it was 10 years ago. And I don't remember it, but I've heard him on some podcasts since then. I'm like, man, I got to get back to this book. But he's great. He's got a podcast now, actually, that's supposed to be really excellent, but I haven't got a chance to check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't either, but I have seen him. He's got like a beard and everything now. I was like, whoa.
What do you think about this topic?
Yeah, those are probably my favorite books.
This topic came up today as well, too, and you and I didn't discuss this one. I always like to hit people with a topic I didn't tell them about in the pre-show, but it's not bad. There was somebody who made a video recently, and basically they called out, I don't even know who this guy was, but he called out just numerous resellers. And I'm not gonna give this guy any more of his 15 minutes in the sun than he deserves. I don't know who he was. He didn't have he had just started a channel, apparently for the purpose of making this video. And basically over the course of about 10 minutes, he just said that this reseller is full of crap. This reseller is living in their mom's basement. This reseller is, and it was people we would know. I mean, you would know the names if I said them.
Okay, somebody has to put that in the chat.
Yeah, I just don't want to give this guy any more credence. And
no, don't just put it in the chat.
But I wanted to touch on one topic in particular. If our feed is still good here, it looks like it might have froze for a second. I wanted to touch on one of the things he said, because I know you offer some paid services like coaching and so on, which I've seen on your website. He talked about this idea that, you know, paid information for reselling, which he doesn't think is a viable career anyway, reselling. I mean, he comes right out and says it. You can't make enough money, really. You might make a little one month, but then you'll get killed the next. But he talked about, you know, that this was a scam, that, you know, people paying for information they can quote unquote get anywhere is a scam. And I've got my own really strong opinions about this, and I suspect we're going to have the same opinion, but I just kind of wanted to get your take on sort of that idea, you know, what's the viability of, you know, paid content, whether it's coaching or ebooks or courses or whatever it is. What are your feelings on that?
I feel that continuing education is extremely important for anyone in business for them, because there's just so much to learn and so much to know, and there's so much improvement. And I have always been a really big self-teaching. I read tons of books, I research, I do a lot of it myself. As you've seen on my channel, reached out for a class for the first time on private label. And I think that education has a place. Yourself, maybe, I mean, sure, like, could anybody watching this go and start an Amazon business? Absolutely.
Right.
I did, no problem. However, if you watch maybe my channel or someone else's channel, you might do 6 months of time in 6 days, because you've been given that information. You don't have to figure out, I list that again, because you can watch it on a YouTube channel for free. So I think education is very valid.
Right, right.
The place, and like the services, like the coaching, I don't advertise for that. I don't have Facebook ads everywhere.
Right.
Come coach, not like a used car salesman type of thing. I'm here if you need me. If you need help with the place in your life, like, okay, I've begun, but now I'm stuck. What do I do? I speak to you just as a person that's like, okay, this is what I did. Let's try this. Not because I know everything. It's more to encourage, to support, to give ideas, and to grow faster rate of pace than if you did it on your own. That's the point. And whether you opt in that or opt out, you know, your own decision. But I definitely think everybody should have some form of that education, whether it's free or whether it's paid.
Yeah.
If you're not learning and growing, then you're dying. I don't get that.
Yeah, isn't it funny how we have no problem paying to go to a trade school to learn how to be a carpenter or a plumber or a mechanic, or we pay to go to a 4-year school and medical school to become a veterinarian or a neurosurgeon. And yet the second someone who gives away countless hours of their time and information and advice monetizes a product, suddenly they're out to scam everybody. You know, it just struck me as like,
people understand that. I mean, come on, like if there's been people, and you probably feel the same way, that you watch and like you just don't trust them. You don't feel, you know, that they're good people or they have a big heart. So I think people to see through that and choose wisely and place their money wisely. I just couldn't disagree with that guy more. I mean, one, he obviously hasn't tried reselling because there's tons of people making a living off of it. And the not learning thing, it just seems like a very limited way of thinking, and really see where he would grow. I mean, as a person, even like I read books about just growing as a person. Like I can't even imagine in the same place that I was for all eternity and thinking I had it all figured out and I didn't need to learn. And also the third point is, business owners, I would tell all of you, I mean, there comes a point where you have to have people pay for your time. You know, I started YouTube for free, and I wasn't making any money on YouTube until my numbers got big enough. But I wouldn't have been able to keep that up if I wasn't getting any compensation for my time, because I have 8 kids and a business to run. Like I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. They all have the same 24 hours in a day, and I can't just make YouTube videos and answer, you know, 100 emails a day. And I wouldn't even, it's like there becomes a point where you're not being a good business person, and also time and that of your family and that of your finances if you're not making some of these adjustments. So then, you know, an unsavvy approach to it, not to scam people, but you can't just give it away for free all the time. There comes a point where this is something you're really interested in. I've taken 40 hours and made a course, but you know, hey, I got to be compensated for the 40 hours. Hours. You know, take that away from my family for free. It doesn't mean I'm scamming you. It has value, but you know, it is something for. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I don't either. And you know, that's a topic for a whole nother show. I mean, I could get on that, because you know, you pay someone for their time and their expertise, and what is that worth to you? And then what you get out of it. You know, if someone tells you something that's going to make you $1,000, what is that worth to you? I don't know. Maybe it's worth $10 to you. Maybe it's worth 100. Maybe it's worth 500. I don't know. If they tell you something that's going to make you 100,000, what's that worth? I don't know. But the point is, like, it's worth something, you know. And you know, and I don't have, you know, and I'm certainly not, you know, my YouTube channel has ads on it, and the amount of money I make on it is, you know, maybe a date night out a month. That's about it. But I mean, it's certainly
it doesn't compensate you for your time. No one's getting rich on YouTube except for PewDiePie or Casey Neistat and some of these guys who have millions of subscribers, and that's different. But they are the tiny fraction of all YouTubers. I mean, if you know anybody who thinks you're going to get rich off of YouTube quickly, good luck with that. But especially in the reseller community, which is not a huge community in terms of YouTube numbers. You know, you're talking about, you know, and you have one of the larger channels. I think you're what, 20,000 subscribers now? Yeah, we're over 20 and over 1 million views. Not sure exactly what we are right now, but group, and I love it. Like I get letters about how it's changed someone's life. You're saying about the value. As far as my time goes, I'm probably just barely compensated with the money I get from YouTube. But it's that, you know, it's the feedback that you get, the relationships. I've formed friendships, like swamp pickers I see, and Terry, and all of these people in the group. I'm seeing a lot of names that I recognize. You know, these are people that, because of the Amazon 360 Facebook, because of the YouTube channel, and that's added value to my. Hopefully, I've added a little bit of value back, you know, to them.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, Picker asked if any of my kids help or if they're helping out with the eBay and Amazon business. All of my kids, well, not the 5-year-old, but everybody else is pretty helpful in the business. And I think that's great because about being an entrepreneur, and they see all the stuff that I'm doing and the schedules, and they can list for ones they've listed, they've shipped, they've written descriptions. The little ones put the stickers on the products, and they can polybag. They're well versed, but they like the money, and I like it because it's cheap labor.
That's great. Hey, they learn something about work and
stuff, you know?
and that's awesome.
Yeah, it teaches them. You know, hopefully, I hope that, you know, they have. It doesn't yours, but I would like for them to have the option to do it if that they chose.
Right, right. Well, listen, Tracy, I think we're about at our 1 hour time limit, and I do want to keep it to that because I like to respect my guest time. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I know we had to kind of catch each other at the right time there because we talked about a month or two ago. But you were so gracious with your time.
Thanks for being patient, and I appreciate you having me on your channel. I appreciate everybody that showed up tonight with your questions, and hopefully we covered something to you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for watching too. Make sure you check out in the About section of this video. There's links there to Tracy's channel on EntrepreneurGirl.net. Tons of great information there, tons of video, free resources there. Tons of things you can learn from Tracy's years of experience doing this. And, you know, I think it was one of the first ones I watched, and I highly recommend it. And so hopefully you guys learned something tonight. And thank you for joining us here on Prof Sales, on the Revenue Wrap. And thanks to my guests once again. So
yeah, keep up the good work on this channel. It's awesome.
I'm going to do my best. All right. So once again, thanks everyone for coming out, and I will see you probably tomorrow. We have another guest lined up for next week. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but I think you will like it, and you will like him, and I will be sharing that information with you soon as we firm up the time. So, all right, guys, it's going to do it for now, and this is Tracy and Prof Sales saying good sales to you. Thanks, everyone.